Love your neighbor as yourself is something that many people have heard of. How, however, possibly can we love our neighbor? And by our neighbor, we can mean anybody, our actual neighbor or just another person. How can we love anybody as we love ourselves? That seems to be a tall task and perhaps even an impossible one. Let's try to break it down and see if it is possible. And if it is possible, how is it conceivably possible? So here, it probably would be helpful to gain at least a little bit of insight concerning the operative term love, because otherwise we don't know what it is that we're being asked to do concerning our neighbor, concerning other people. What does it mean to love our neighbor? If by the term love we mean that which we mean in sentences such as, I love burgers or salads, ice cream, chocolate chip cookies, a nice warm bed or a warm shower, and a warm shower, even better, then indeed we cannot love our neighbor as ourselves. Why? Because we do not share nervous systems with our neighbor. We do not experience our neighbor's stomach when it is empty versus full. We do not experience heat and cold by way of our neighbor's body. Our neighbor, again, actual neighbor, just in principle, another person, has a different body and has a different set of experiences. I can be very, very hot, hopefully in a safe environment. Let's say a sauna. I'm in the sauna. I've been in there for 10 minutes. I'm very hot. And another person is outside. Maybe they're even in a cold, plunge or bath. They're very, very cold. So I can't be cold for them, and they can't be hot for me. These are separate things. So in this sense, we cannot love another person as herself. It doesn't make any sense. Again, somebody else is nice and full while I'm hungry, or vice versa. It is what it is. I feel my own pain. I feel my own pleasure. I feel the satiety of my stomach when it's nice and full. I feel its emptiness, and so forth. So that's impossible, we would say, to love our neighbor in that sense. But is there some other sense of the term love, such as could apply to others? Perhaps there is, and that sense could be described perhaps as apprehending the inner reality of someone, starting with ourselves, and then desiring, willing, wishing, aspiring for the very best that can occur concerning that real inward reality in question. What does that mean? Let's start off with our very own self. I can think of myself as a concept in terms of my professional experience, what it says on my resume if I have one. I can think of myself as a student if I'm a student. Right? I can think of myself as the child of such and such parents or parent, depending on the circumstances. I can think of myself as being from this place, having been born this year, having this age, and so forth. But I can also try to experience myself as a person in the truest sense of the term, as a living, self-active, sentient, intrinsically autonomous entity, right? Such as can aspire for its own good, right? And conversely, unfortunately, such as can move away from that good. Now, assuming that I conceive myself in those terms, meaning I don't think of myself first and foremost as this person with this resume, or the image in the mirror, or how other people perceive me, or how I appear on social media. I think of myself, I experience myself as a real person with a real inward existence, even if nobody sees me. Either physically, nobody's around, nobody's aware of me on social media, let's say. still I exist in that sort of inward way. Right? So, if I can think of myself in that way, I can aspire for my own good. And what that involves is overcoming my self-centeredness, overcoming my pride, overcoming my animality, winning some of those battles between my creaturehood, which would have me pursue lower ends, maybe simply pleasure, rest, avoidance of any and all effort, avoidance of any risk, and such, winning some of those battles, and hopefully maturing, developing, progressing, gaining some good ideas, improving my character, becoming a little bit more self-aware of my both negative and positive traits. That's how I would look out for myself. That's what it would mean along those lines for me to genuinely love myself. Right? Avoiding any and all effort is not real love of self. It's just sloth and selfishness, or sloth inspired by selfishness. Avoiding any cultivation of the qualities that make me distinctly human, such as thinking, such as treating other people well as I want to be treated, although that might be rushing ahead because that's what we're trying to figure out. That's not really loving myself. That's just being a critter, again, inspired by that self-centeredness. Taking risks in order to further my development, doing things that maybe, again, would make me anxious and self-conscious, and risk exposing my inferiority, risk busting my egoism in order to develop more, in order to become the best version of myself, taking care of myself physically, right, in view of health, whether that means sleep or cutting out junk food and such. That is all part of what it means to authentically love oneself. However, what we oftentimes mean by love of self is just that selfishness. It's just that self-centered concern. Let me crawl away from any and all challenges of life. Let me avoid anything that can possibly make me feel bad, make me feel inferior, and let me simply coddle myself, right? And massage myself in baby oil, perhaps literally, but at least so to speak, right? Excuse me. And that's self-love, right? No, that's self-centeredness. That's selfishness. That's egoism. That's just what we want to be rid of. Now, if I can love myself in that way, I can will my own good. I want to be everything that I can be. I want to be done with my disgusting, self-centered egoism and selfishness and self-idolatry and so forth. If I can do that, then perhaps I can do the same concerning others. Because here, I don't need to be able to feel your physical pain and pleasure. I don't need to be able to inhabit your stomach, meaning to feel your hunger or your satiety, and so forth. I don't need to have your bank account. I don't need to have your home in order to will your good in this way. I can will your good simply in light of knowing that you exist. So, for example, let's say that I'm a prospective parent, and right now I want to adopt a child. Or should we say, I want to adopt a child, and right now, as of the moment, I don't know who I'm going to adopt. I don't know of that child at all. I'm just starting the process. So, at first, there's this broad concept, children. There's a lot of them in the world. Then I narrow it down, maybe children from this country, children from this orphanage or this adoption program. And then I go and maybe meet with some children. And then, let's say, however the process works, I decide that child is the one, that kind of things work. And I adopt that child. Now I know that child. And now I can will their good specifically as a particular person, just through that knowledge and just through that goodwill. And that would seem to be how we relate to any and all others. I don't know at first of you at all, say spouse, friend, neighbor, colleague. Now that I do know of you, I can will your good. I can hope and aspire that you become everything that you can be. And I can make my own contribution, whether it's smaller or bigger, depending on the circumstances, to that good of yours. And those circumstances, of course, are in light of our relationship. So, for example, if I stand in the relationship of parent to you, then my contribution to your good can be immense. It can be the biggest contribution that anybody aside from you yourself can make. Right? I can work hard to secure the best education I can for you. I can work hard to take steps to improve your character, calling you out whenever that needs to be done, putting you in situations that are conducive to growth, and so forth. If our relationship consists out of the occasional 5-second interaction, maybe somebody who's checking me out at the grocery store, something like this, then of course my impact is much more limited. But I can still do something. I can still think of this person as a real person, essentially just like me, and essentially just like those who I do love. Somebody else's child, somebody else's spouse, whatever the case might be, but all the same, and I can still have that goodwill towards that person, even in that slightest capacity. Even just anybody, a scammer calls me, I can still will their good. That's too bad that you fell into this lifestyle. I wish that you would change. I wish that you would be better. I wish that you would move towards your own highest goodness in its potentiality, or realizing that potentiality, should we say. So, with that said, in this sense, however, it must be admitted that love of others starts with love of oneself, but not in the selfish sense. Love of others means, first of all, I pamper myself. First of all, I refuse any claims on my time, and I burrow away in my little hole. And then I can love others. No, then I'm just going to be more selfish. But if I take love in the proper sense, I have to develop myself. I have to work out my own conflicts and complexes and issues and everything standing in the way of me being everything that I can be. I have to try to bust open my own egoism, confront my own self-centeredness and self-idolatry, meaning I, the this and the that. Right? That's the first step. If I don't do that concerning my immediate self, there's nothing to be said concerning others. Then I can have affection for others. I can envy others. I can like others. I can hate others, but I can't really love others if I do not start with that true love of self in its genuine sense. But if I do, if I can start with genuine will for the well-being of my immediate self, then eventually I can will the well-being of others. And that then would be how we can indeed love our neighbor as ourselves, because ultimately we may come to conceive matters as that. There's not an absolute difference between myself and my neighbor. There certainly are differences. There's enough difference to permit relationship. Right? My neighbor is not me in his or her entirety. They're a distinct person, but they're enough me. They're enough the same that I can truly will their good, desire their good, just as I do concerning my immediate self. And that seems to be the goal to shoot for. So we can think about it and do so. Thank you for listening.